Have you or someone close to you ever been bullied?
Yes, it was my sister.
And about what?
She has some disabilities that she's had since birth, and that kind of makes her different than other people.
How did it affect them or yourself?
For her, it's really upsetting for her not to make friends, and then it's for like the family. It's kind of like it's hard to put her in school because we don't know how the other kids will react to her.
Do you think bullying affects our school system?
I mean, I think it does. I think it affects everywhere.
And do you think it affects someone's grades?
I haven't seen with my sister just because she hasn't been in a grade that gets grades, but yeah, I believe it does. I think it distracts a person from their truest potential.
And what are some effects of bullying?
Low self-esteem, probably depression, anxiety, probably attitude problems. I mean, those are some of the things I've seen with my sister. So.
Okay, and last question, do you think it can ever be stopped and why?
Theoretically, no, but I hope it does. I don't think it can be because there's always going to be people in this world who think they are entitled, or people who have been bullied themselves or have bad home situations that just making other people feel bad. It's like misery enjoys company. So those people who are being bullied are then in turn going to be bullied. So I don't think we'll stop.
Okay, have you noticed any of your students being or have been bullied before?
Yes. I've had some students in the past come to me and say they've struggled with some bullying at certain points, whether it's been this year or it's been in the past. So I think it does happen in school. I think, though, for the most part, that actually happens even more frequently outside of school, and especially with social media. So I see much more of it in social media than I see probably within the building.
Okay, and about what kind of bullying? Like name calling?
I think it's kind of situational, so it tends to be, from what I see, more of small groups of people who they've known each other for a while, then something happened, there's a situation or conflict, and then that's when it kind of starts. And so I don't see it as more of a random thing. I see it as people who know each other, a conflict happened, and then that's when kind of some blame starts happening, some name calling, rumor spreading, kind of really verbal assault kind of stuff. So that's what I see primarily with students.
Okay, and how does it affect them in like their school and
a lot
how they?
I think it depends on the person, but I think it affects a lot of people in terms of it just. That's all they think about. So there's depression that's involved. They don't want to come to school, so there's an avoidance factor with school. Your social group, your friends kind of tend to change a little bit sometimes, where you feel like you're ganged up on sometimes with other people. So the social group friendships are affected. Grades are affected. And I think it can be pretty long lasting, and it can have a real impact on someone's self-esteem and all of that. So.
Okay, and do you think it can ever be stopped?
I think it's one of those things that people have to be aware of how they can affect others, because there really needs to be more of an awareness about how our actions really affect and impact other people, and whether that's through words, actions. And so to stop that would be great, but it really does take a lot more awareness and a lot more responsibility in terms of social media, because once it's out there, and that can have a really long and lasting impact on how someone views themselves, and like I said, their self-esteem. So I hope it can be stopped. I think it'd be great if it could.
And what are some long-term effects do you usually see, like if you've seen them later in life? Do you usually see things that...
I've talked to students even after they've graduated, or they've even gone on, say they've had some issues with that when they were freshmen, and I've seen them again even when they're sophomores or juniors. I hope can be an experience that they grow from and that they learn from. Maybe the friendships have changed and their circles changed and they grew from it in the way that they're more confident. That would be what I would hope that would happen in terms of change. I never want to see students go the opposite direction where they just can't get over that, and it really impacts and affects their life and affects how they deal with people. So, yeah.
So have you noticed any of your students being or have been bullied before?
Most of what I see is not in the classroom. It's in the hallways, or I hear about it after the fact, about things that have happened on social media. I know that students that I have good relationships with have told me, hey, this happened, or so-and-so said this, and they'll show me proof, and then that region of bullying goes beyond what I'm able to see. So when it happens online, it's a lot more harsh, and it's a lot less able to grasp what really happened. So I see it a lot online, and then just in the hallways, and people yelling, and sometimes it's hard to tell if you don't know the students, are they playing, or are they just messing around, or is it real, and should I intervene? And so at that point you just gotta know that whatever it is, you gotta stop it, so that in case that it might be hurting somebody, you're not giving them the chance to be hurt.
Okay, so how did it affect yourself by seeing it, or affect them?
Personally, it just affects me because I care about all of my students, so to know that they're hurting or that somebody hurt them on purpose or by accident, it's never hard to hear, or it's never easy to hear. It definitely affects the individuals because they feel like their self-worth is nothing, and they feel like, why would somebody say this to me, especially if it's somebody that they don't know. So when it comes from a friend, sometimes it's easier to take because you know that person, maybe you did something to them, maybe there's some kind of a back and forth that's been going on, or if it comes from a classmate, at least you have a background with that person. But when it comes from a complete stranger, it's really hard for people to see. In any case though, I definitely see students' self-esteem go down. It's kind of something that they aren't sure how to deal with, and to see students who are trying not to be mean back, that's when I see them hurt the most. In other cases, students will put up a more aggressive front, and then they'll be the bullies in return because they're trying to protect themselves and trying to be stronger and sort of rise above it, but in turn that just creates a cycle, and then it keeps going.
Okay, how do you think it affects our school system?
As a system as a whole, when we see any issue kind of across the board, we want to address it because we want our students to be safe and feel safe. So in terms of bullying, if we notice that being an issue, we meet as teachers and we try to come up with ideas to create change and to create a more positive environment. It definitely affects, anything that affects the students will affect the school system. So when it affects the students, then we have counselors ready, and we have teachers, knowing how to respond to those situations, whether it be an individual situation or a group situation. We as teachers need to know how to react and how to solve those problems. So again, when I see it in my classroom, it's really easy because it's right in front of me. But when it's behind the scenes, or when it's with students that aren't mine, it's harder to do. So as a school, we need to know how to work together to create all of those, or to stop all those problems from happening.
Do you think it affects their grades?
Definitely. I think that once a student has a lack of confidence in any area, they start to question themselves and their self-worth goes down, and that kind of creates a snowball effect of what is important in my life. And so when they have less confidence about themselves, they don't see the point in doing those daily activities, and it's harder to focus on maybe schoolwork and getting those grades turned in when they've got bigger issues. That what's going to happen when I leave school today? Is somebody going to follow me? Is somebody going to what happens when I get home and check Facebook and Twitter and see those comments towards me? And when those bigger things about are attacking them personally, everything else seems to be less important. So I see students not being able to prioritize, and mentally they're not capable of focusing and doing that work because there are bigger things happening outside.
Do you think it can ever be stopped?
Optimistically, yes. If we can create a culture of self-love and self-respect and respect for others, then I think that it can be stopped. But that's not the culture that we live in. That's not the society we live in. Our competitive nature as humans causes us to want to be better than other people. And sometimes if we don't have concrete feelings of being better than somebody, we put ourselves above them by bullying them. And that's what causes a lot of that. And we can teach respect for others, and we can teach boundaries and how to communicate positively, then that could happen. But it's got to start with a worldwide thing. And because we see so many other forms of bullying, as soon as people are exposed to it in some way, they learn those behaviors. And I think it's a far-reaching goal, but if we can turn the world around, I hope we can.
What are some long-term effects that you see?
Long-term effects of bullying, I think, are connect to a lot of mental disorders. I think depression, anxiety, that idea of self-worth connects to a lot of those mental illnesses as well. And if you have a bullying situation that you haven't really been able to get over, that will stick with you, and that will not allow you to move on, and you'll compartmentalize. And then we see a lot of those in our students, and we see a lot of issues of focus. And I think down the road, even outside of school, even if it's not a mental issue, just the ability to react to others and to communicate well can be affected by even one simple instance of bullying. So if you've had a past of it where either you've been a bully or you have been bullied, you're going to react to any situation the same way. So if you are a bully, you're always going to act aggressively. You're always going to put yourself above others in those same situations until you learn the behaviors are not okay. And if you have been bullied, then you're going to always remember those instances and then go forward in any situation like that, again, until you learn those behaviors. And it's hard to overcome that, and it's hard as someone who has bullied until you learn that that's not okay, and you've maybe had an experience yourself where you've seen the other side of it. It never really ends. So you've got to stop and teach what's okay, what's not okay, so that we can continue forward to not have as many issues.